As-Salām alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The fifth session, the fifth name we've seen so far, Ar-Rahman, and we said it is the unity of being and force of creativity. Ar-Rahim, which we translated for as the unity of love and the force of connecting or relating. And we saw Al-Malik, which we translated as the unity of harmony and the force of keeping things together, if you want. I forgot what is the exact translation that I have given. But all of this, inshallah, will come into a booklet at some point with all the explanations. And after that, we saw Al-Quddus last week. And Al-Quddus, saw it as we said it's the unity of purity and the force of cleansing, the force of uncluttering. Yeah. So, and today we continue with As-Salām. As-Salāmu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This divine name that occupies a central place in our tradition, in our Muhammadan tradition. By historical mistake, the tradition itself has been named Al-Islam. That's not how the Prophet has named it, but let us say the history doesn't commit mistakes, or mistakes of people make sense sometimes, but there is something about it, Al-Islam. The Muhammadan tradition should have been called Al-Iman, not Al-Islam, but that's another. We'll go to the name Al-Mu'min next time and we'll talk about it more. The greeting that we have as people as Muhammadans, we greet each other as with As-Salāmu alaykum. The gate of the heaven is called Babu Salam. The gate of ziyarah to the Prophet Muhammad is called Babu Salam. Salam occupies a central place in our literature, in our, I would say, in our language, and it should occupy a better place in our philosophy and in our ethics, which is not the case, unfortunately. But As-Salam is central concept in the Muhammadan tradition. So, what is As-Salam, and what does it mean to call the divine unity, to call the unity of being, or the divine unity, to qualify it and to name it, and to call it upon with the name As-Salām. Well, I will demonstrate that As-Salām is translatable as the unity of peace, with capital P, and the force of reconciliation, or the force of integrity as well. The linguistic root Salama, first of all, the root Salama carries a depth far greater than the simple idea of peace understood as external calm. Much deeper than that. It simultaneously conveys to be intact, unharmed, to be preserved from fracture, to be safe and secure, to be reconciled, to be made whole. Salam, then, is not first a feeling or emotion, but a state of integrity. You can write it down. Salam is a state of integrity, of wholeness. From the same root emerge salama, bisalama. In Tunisia, when you are leaving, they told you bisalama. And when you come, they tell you aslama or ala salama. Huh? Salama means safety, preservation. Silm, pacification. Islam, linguistically means restoring oneself to the order of reality. That's what Islam means. It's to restore oneself to the order of reality, to reconcile oneself with reality. Muslim, one who seeks alignment and inner coherence, linguistically speaking. Muslim is the one who seeks alignment and inner coherence. As-Salām, then, is the one, the all there is, but the one, free of rupture, free of inner contradiction, free of ontological violence. Again, As-Salām is the one, is that unity, is that entity, is that essence, free of rupture, free of inner contradiction, free of ontological violence. As a divine name, As-Salām, we find it in the Quran exactly as As-Salām, in that verse, the same verse, where we find Al-Malik Al-Quddus, As-Salām comes immediately after, which is the verse 59:23, at the end of Surah Al-Hashr. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام. And I want to take this opportunity to tell you that not all the divine names, not all the 99 divine names that actually exist in the Quran as such, as names. You understand? For example, you won't find in the Quran هو المنتقم. You will find a verb بل انتقم الله منهم ينتقم, etc. But not a name. The theologians and the Sufis decided to create a name out of that verb, out of that action, out of that verb. But it hasn't been mentioned as a name. We will see that the names that were mentioned in the Quran as names, not as, you understand, they were not derived afterwards by theologians. They were just mentioned in the Quran like that, are much fewer than 99. We'll see that. So for now, I want to tell you that As-Salām is one of these names, and all the names that we've seen so far, they have been mentioned as such. The Quran, let's go, the divine intelligence, the Muhammadan consciousness has received the divine intelligence, the divine message as such. It is a name that we find in the Quran exactly like that, As-Salām. So the name As-Salām appears immediately after Al-Quddus, and that's very, very, very important. Why? Because Al-Quddus, we said it is a name of fire. What happens after fire? It could be destruction and chaos, or قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, says the divine verse, speaking to Ibrahim, talking about this miracle that we told to the fire to become salam upon Abraham. And that verse is very dear to and cherished by Sufis, because it's not the nar here, it's not the nar, the fire, it's not about the miracle, it's about the nar of fana. The nar of fana. So that nar of love, that fire of love, but also that fire of purification, don't fear it, because afterwards there will be salam. So it will be a fire of purification, not a fire of destruction. So you see the connection, Al-Quddus, As-Salām. They need to be together. That's why last time I told you in the dhikr of Ya Quddus, don't say Ya Quddus. We have to say Ya Quddus, Ya Salam. Because if you say Ya Quddus, it's like you said As-Salat. And you don't say As-Salamu alayka Rasulullah. Because Salat means fire as well. Salam is water. We need both of them to have life. Al-Quddus, separation from all impurity, fana in the Sufi language. As-Salam is the wholeness restored after purification. Baqa in the Sufi language. Holiness without peace would be sterile. Purity without reconciliation after would be violent. Again, holiness without peace would be sterile after. I can become holy without becoming whole after that. Then I'm detached from the society. I can have no connection with anyone. A person who lives the experience of fana, of Quddusiyya, who enters in his own Quddus, cannot talk and speak to anyone. Not even his own humanness and human aspect. That's why after the fana comes, needs to be completed with al-baqa. So al-Quddusiyya needs to be completed with as-Salamiyya. So holiness without peace would be sterile. Purity without reconciliation would be violent. Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, As-Salam, my dear friends. Al-Malik is the name for Judaity, the heritage of Musa. Al-Quddus is the name for the inheritance, the heritage of Isa. As-Salam is the name for the heritage of Muhammad. Remind me about this another time and we'll go deeper into it, or don't need to remind me. I want you to meditate on it. Okay, it is an exercise for you. Take this exercise and tell me from the teachings that we received why Al-Malik would be a name that describes the most the inheritance of Musa, Al-Quddus, the inheritance of Isa, As-Salam, the inheritance of Muhammad, and the connection between them. Because one name completes the other. Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, As-Salam. Now, As-Salam then said is the natural consequence of ontological rightness and purity. As-Salam is not the absence of conflict, by the way, and that's very important because this is a major misunderstanding that As-Salam means or is about avoiding tension. As-Salam means silence to preserve appearances. As-Salam means numbing wounds. No. As-Salam is crossing reality without fragmentation. You can write this down. As-Salam means to cross the reality, to cross the fire without fragmentation. قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. So divine peace is not fragile. It carries the capacity to pass through fire without being lost. As-Salām as a force now. So, as we have consistently emphasized with the divine names, it is about force to gain and develop, not a sentiment. So we may therefore speak of unity of peace and force of integrity when we talk about As-Salām. When we think of God as As-Salām, we think of God as the unity of peace. Understand? So peace with capital P is a unity. It's that one piece, it's that one piece, the unity of peace. That manifests everywhere and through many ways. And As-Salām as an incarnation is a force of integrity. We said all the divine names we are going to translate them together as unity of, force of. Unity of when we think of the unity, and force of when we think of our inheritance. Because we are the inheritors of God, of the divine names. As the Prophet Muhammad taught us very well and said, تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. Inherit the divine qualities. Let them incarnate. So we incarnate them when we become a force of integrity. So As-Salām is the force of inner cohesion, the power that prevents the human being from breaking under the pressure of existence. This force operates on several levels: psychological, pacifying inner conflicts; relational, dissolving reactive violence; spiritual, restoring ontological trust; social, grounding just coexistence. As-Salām and the human being. So the human suffering is largely the result of fragmentation between thought and feeling, or thought and emotion, between appearance and truth, between ideals and reality. As-Salām is the force of reunification. One who walks with this name no longer needs to defend themselves constantly. They will say سلاما وإذا خطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. If someone knows these verses, you may write these references. The reference of قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما, and now وإذا خطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. At the end of Surah Al-Furqan, we are talking about وعباد الرحمن. So they don't need to defend themselves constantly. No, salam, because it's integrity. No longer needs to justify their existence. Ceases to live in fear of being harmed. They become a safe space for themselves and for others. A crucial point: peace begins in speech. That's why we have As-Salāmu alaykum. Vile speech fractures, just speech pacifies. Aligned speech restores. This is why the Muhammadan greeting, you may call it Islamic, but I prefer to call it Muhammadan. That's more true. The Muhammadan greeting is not a mere social formula. As-Salāmu alaykum. Its deeper meaning is, I come toward you without the intention to harm. I am not a threat to your being. I come toward you without the intention of harm. I am not a threat to your being. As-Salām now is mentioned today lightly, and many invoke peace while refusing truth. In Canada, we have something called peace and reconciliation. Actually, there is no peace as reconciliation. There is no, it's called truth and reconciliation. And that's what peace is. It is truth and reconciliation together. There is no salam without sidq, without truthfulness. No salam without lucid confrontation. No salam without responsibility. False peace is an anesthesia of consciousness. Divine peace is stability born of clarity, or I would call it grounding, or stability born of grounding in clarity. At a deeper level, As-Salam corresponds to the end of self-war, the exit from inner conflict, an active acceptance of reality, not resignation, but a profound accord with life. It is the moment when the human being ceases to experience themselves as a battlefield. Invoking As-Salam is not repetition of a word, but allowing this force to reconfigure our relationship to existence. One may invoke it inwardly as, may the force of integrity move through my thoughts. May the safety of being dissolve my fears. May peace no longer be an escape, but stability. So, my dear friends, at the end of the session, we understand we can go with these points that As-Salam is peace that does not flee reality, integrity that crosses complexity, safety that does not depend on circumstances, reconciliation that does not deny truth. It is therefore a force of spiritual maturity, a divine signature in the realized human being that deserves to be called Muslim. المسلم من سلم الناس من يده ولسانه. Force of integrity for himself and for others. Thank you very much. So at the end, we can bring the two names together, purity and the force of purity and the force of integrity, and say, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam. Just a thought that came to mind now when I was saying Ya Quddus, Ya Salam. Al-Quds, just history wanted, the divine wisdom wanted that the name of that place is Al-Quds. And now we are at the end of the age of pieces, and we are at the end of the age of conflict, and this is the last conflict that humanity is living. It is the most intense and the most, and it has its epicenter. It is everywhere in the world, but its epicenter, the epicenter of this volcano, of this force of purification is happening in Al-Quds. and then and then the age of As-Salam is coming. Uh, there is no Salam without going through Quddus. We need to go through this fire. We hate it, but we need to go through it. This fire is not to disintegrate me. This fire is not to destroy me. This fire is to purify me, to make me ready to receive As-Salam. the divine reintegration, the divine reconciliation, the force of integrity and reunification. As-Salām alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.